On the news, anti-graft agency ICPC declares Obono Obla wanted amid corruption probe. Court orders temporary forfeiture of properties linked to Abdulrasheed Maina. And Guinea opposition leaders jailed for leading protest against government. A warm welcome to News Now. I am Fidelia Agoncha. The Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission, ICPC, has declared Okoye Obono Obla, former chairman of the Special Investigation Panel for the Recovery of Public Property, wanted. The anti-graft agency said it took the action due to his repeated failure to appear before it to answer questions bordering on allegations of fraud and corruption. In a statement released on Tuesday, ICPC noted that attempts to track and make Obla appear before it failed despite help from other law enforcement agencies. The agency also noted that it had established that Obono Obla left the country since August and had not returned. President Muhammadu Buhari had in August suspended Obono Obla indefinitely following allegations of corruption and breach of some provisions of the Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Act of year 2000. A federal high court in Abuja has ordered the temporary forfeiture of 23 properties linked to a former chairman of pension reform tax team, Abdulrasheed Maina. The trial judge, Justice Folashade Ogunbanjo, gave the order on Tuesday while ruling on a motion filed by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC. In the suit, the anti-graft agency urged the court to order the temporary forfeiture of the properties linked to Maina on grounds that they were proceeds of corruption. After granting the request of the agency, Justice Ogunbanjo fixed November 19 for the mentioning of the case. According to the EFCC, the temporary forfeited properties are situated in Kaduna, Borno, and Sokoto, as well as the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja. Maina is accused of embezzling over 2.1 billion naira of funds meant for pensioners in the country. Well, still with the judiciary, the Federal High Court sitting in Lagos is set to deliver judgment in an alleged fraud case of 7.65 billion naira against former governor of Abia State, Orji Uzor Kalu, and two others. In a ruling on Tuesday, Justice Mohammed Idris fixed December 2nd for judgment after parties in the case adopted their written addresses and made their final argument. In its final argument, the Prosecution Counsel for the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, Rotimi Jacobs, asked the judge to jail the defendants as the prosecution had proved the allegations against them. The defense counsels on their part asked the court to dismiss the charges, acquit, and discharge their client. After listening to all the parties, Justice Idris fixed December 2nd for judgment. Kalu, his company, Slook Niger Limited, and former Abia State Director of Finance, Ude Udogu, are standing trial on an amended 39 counts bordering on conspiracy and the diversion of 7.65 billion naira from the coffers of the state. The matter has been in court for the past 12 years. Minister of Transportation Rotimi Amechi has appeared before the National Assembly Joint Committee on Marine Transport to defend the 2020 budget for his ministry. According to Amechi, the ministry is proposing a total capital budget of 748 billion naira for the marine sector and overhead of 358 million naira for the other segments. He also noted that the federal government was putting in place measures that would localize railway technology and boost all forms of transportation in the country. Tunjioye has that story.
Rotimi Amechi is here to defend the budget for his ministry. With him are the chief executive officers of agencies and parastatals under the ministry, which include the Nigeria Ports Authority, Nigeria Maritime Administration and Safety Agency, National Inland Waterways Authority, Nigeria Shippers Council, Maritime Academy of Nigeria, and the Council for the Regulation of Freight Forwarding in Nigeria. The main issue here is the plan by government to bring back to life railway services that have been comatose for years and the seaport concession.
The initial seaport concession
Yeah, I already wrote to your office, and I did mention it to the MD when he came before us. Now, that issue is very, very important to me because that's my constituency. And of course, that seaport is very important to the southeast. And of course, Nigeria in general. I really need for you to look at the process again. Definitely, Honorable Minister, because if you read my letter, you'll know why I'm saying this. I really don't even want to go into details right now, but I suggest strongly, and I know you're someone that actually looks at facts. That particular concession, that process needs to be looked at.
From the list of your ongoing rail projects, when shall the Southeast have a feeling of this rail project?
And I'd like to know, to tell the Nigerian public, I come from the South, so I'll be very interested in Port Harcourt to Maiduguri, and at the same time, I'll be interested in Lagos to Calabar, because they all affect the South. But it is not done based on ethnic interests. It is not done by what I want. It is done by economic needs. The most viable route for now, if we forget our ethnic basis, is Lagos-Kano. It has capacity to generate 30 million tons of cargo. 30 million tons of cargo. So when we want to pay back, it's a lot easier to pay back using money coming from Lagos-Kano. Port Harcourt Maiduguri is 11 million tons of cargo. 11 million tons of cargo. We are yet to get a study, because a new rail line, of the Lagos to Calabar.
The chairman of the committee, Senator Danjuma Goje, wants to know when the project can be completed.
If it took you for almost 4 years not to complete Kano, Lagos, Ibadan, in all sincerity, do you think, no, how long do you think it will take you? How many years do you think it will take you to cover all those areas you have not mentioned, even if you have the funds?
Lagos to Kano, that we already have funds, because it was the first project by Obasanjo, is about $8.7 billion. Lagos to Calabar, $11.1 billion. Because I'm tired of asking this question. I want to put the money out. So that if once you have the money, we are ready to construct. It's $11.1 billion, Lagos to Calabar. Port Harcourt to Maiduguri, $14.2 billion. Please calculate all. So it's not about my, if you ask me, I'm a minister for transport. I don't know when my village will produce the next minister. I want this thing to pass through my village. But the money is just not there. However, one of the reasons why we are going to Sochi is to negotiate for loans for either Port Harcourt to Maiduguri or Lagos to Calabar.
With about $34 billion investment in the rail sector, government is showing huge commitment in making every part of the country economically viable by reducing the dependence on oil. From Abuja, Tunji Oye, TV360 News.
Meanwhile, the Senate has rejected the 23 billion naira 2020 budget proposal of the Ministry of Niger Delta Affairs headed by Godswill Akpabio. After Akpabio presented the fiscal document, the panel said the 23.890 billion naira allocated to the Niger Delta Affairs Ministry in the 2020 budget was not only meager but too unrealistic to make any impact. The Senate committee also faulted the executive arm of government for not releasing money to fund the capital projects in the 2019 budget. Members of the committee noted with concern that despite the outstanding 21 billion naira worth of projects that were not implemented in the 2019 budget, the executive voted only 23 billion naira for capital projects by the ministry in the 2020 budget. The committee resolved to reject the budgetary allocation for the ministry and also directed the ministry and other officials of the ministry at the session to rework it.
The bane of this ministry is abandoned projects, littered all over the 9 states. I went down with the former minister, I went down with the Minister of State. There is no state In fact, I may even dare to say there's no local government where there is no abandoned project. In the Niger Delta, by the Ministry of Niger Delta. We cannot continue like that. We can't. If you go around the whole of Niger Delta, abandoned project, abandoned project, abandoned project, and we are talking of new, you are talking of new project, which, according to minority leader, designed to fail. We are not doing our duties as legislators and representatives of the people there. We are not, technically not doing our duty.
The budget style that you have now is not different from the one you had last year, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. And that's been the problem. This type of budget doesn't produce anything visible for the people. I wish Minister of Niger Delta would look at the problem of the people of the Niger Delta and take some key major projects, concentrate on it, and do it well for people.
This uncommon budget be taken back and reworked by the ministry, taking into consideration all these our items that were pointed out now, and then we give them another date to come back to come and defend this budget.
The intention here is that we'll now be looking at those that could be completed, those that could be meshed, those that contracts could be terminated, those that could be suspended. And so it's not the function of carrying all these things on the paper and at the end nothing is actually achieved. The intention of Mr. President is to ensure that we have completed projects in Niger that are commissioned for the use of the people.
Officials of the Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps, NSCDC, have rescued not less than 11 persons, including an 11-year-old boy, in 2 illegal rehabilitation centers in Kaduna State. The NSCDC carried out the operation on Tuesday morning in Zaria, where they discovered the illegally operated Limanchia and Mamara rehabilitation centers in the area. Deputy Commandant of the NSCDC in Kaduna, Aloysius Nega, told journalists that 3 people died in one of the centers while in custody. He added that many of the victims suffer from acute malnutrition as a result of the dehumanized condition they were subjected to. The discovery is coming barely 1 month after security operatives raided 2 other illegal rehabilitation facilities in Kaduna State. Members of the Civilian Joint Task Force have captured 19 Boko Haram fighters and 2 commanders on the wanted list of the Nigerian Army in Bama local government area of Borno State. The commanders are number 90 and 41 on the list, which was released by the Nigerian Army in 2015. The recent arrest is said to be due to the efforts of Babagana Zulum, governor of Borno State, in intensifying the use of unconventional means in the fight against terrorism. The governor had, during visits to the 27 local government areas of the state, including Bama, held meetings with Civilian Joint Task Force, hunters and vigilantes, and procured vehicles and other logistics they required to operate. Nigerians living in South Africa are allegedly under attack again. The new xenophobic attacks reportedly happened at Mpumalanga province of the country. It has been confirmed by the leadership of the Nigerian citizens in South Africa, NICASA, and Nigeria's Consul General to South Africa. The development is coming weeks after President Muhammadu Buhari visited South Africa, where he called for the protection of Nigerians and other foreign nationals living in the country. Buhari's visit followed xenophobic attacks on foreigners in the country, which left close to 10 people dead and dozens of properties destroyed. About 600 Nigerians affected in the violence returned from Johannesburg in September 2019. International Center for Technical and Vocational Education Training, UNESCO, and UNEVOC is set to roll out its Pioneer Innovation Hub institution in Nigeria at the Yaba College of Technology, Yabatech. Speaking at the institution's Technology Innovation Week and iHub launch, the project officer, Wilson Jr., explains that the selection of the institution was based on its vision for technological and vocational development. Obafemi Omokungbe, the school's rector, on his part, expressed delight at the selection of the institution, stating that the College of Technology has continuously excelled in the areas of innovation technology, especially among the alumni of the school. The foreign assessors had visited the school to validate the college status as the only IHUB center in Nigeria.
It is incredibly good news that Yaba College of Technology was selected as the pilot institution for this laudable project out of 174 universities, 122 polytechnics, and 152 colleges of education. We all know that innovation is the driving force of this project, which is an entire suite from the usual or continuous improvements on inclusive education through entrepreneurial teaching and learning system for a sustainable ecosystem.
We expect Yabatech to play a relevant role in the scaling up of this project, when we are going to take it either to other institutions, to other countries, or to other geographic regions of Nigeria. The modality of scaling up is yet to be decided, but one thing is for sure, Yabatech will be side by side with those on that.
Civil society group Crusade for Justice is demanding better ways to hold the Nigerian government accountable and improve the rule of law in the country. The group made the demand at its 17th annual lecture held in Ikeja, Lagos State. Speaking at the event, Ayodele Asenua, Dean of the Faculty of Law, University of Lagos, highlighted some of the problems preventing effective legislative oversight in Nigeria. On her part, former Chief Judge of the state, Justice Ayo Phillips, retired, called for more funding and a better working condition for the judiciary to improve justice delivery in the country.
We need to strengthen legislative oversight in Nigeria, but we need to address the problems that have attended legislative oversight. There have been allegations that the government legislature has attempted to hijack executive responsibilities and executive functions in the discharge of oversight functions. There have been allegations that all too often intimidation and harassments have been used in the course of legislative oversight. We need to address those problems if true. We also find that technical competence is something that needs to be addressed. We believe that the legislature needs to rely more on experts who are skilled in the areas that they are exercising oversight in relation to ensure that the output of the oversight functions is optimal.
Some states, the states of their courtrooms, the emoluments of the judges and the magistrates is shameful. So, I mean, like, that's why I said there's so much wrong. So they can't blame the judiciary for anything at all. Our judges here, I really commend them because the conditions under which some of them work is really disgusting. And yet they're doing their best because they have this innate sense of justice and they want to help the poor man. It's the last hope for the common man. And we're doing what we can. But, you know, judges are going to, magistrates, they're going to get disillusioned very quickly if they continue to denigrate them, disgrace them, embarrass them, and treat them in this fashion.
News Now will continue in just a moment. Don't go away.
Which housed the crash nurseries and the rescue life from protecting the public welfare.
That the election has been postponed and Nigerians have reacted.
Local area of Lagos as early as 7 a.m.
Some minutes past the incident has been managed.
This morning we have
Welcome back. Let's now talk business with Annetta Felix. Hello, Annetta.
Hello, Fidelia.
Tell me what's the latest over there.
Well, Nigeria's external reserves plunged to $40.3 billion as at October 18, 2019. This is the first time in almost 2 years that the nation's external reserves would decline to $40.3 billion. In the data obtained from the CBN, Nigeria's external reserves dropped from $45 billion in July to $40.3 billion in October 18, 2019. This suggests the country's external reserves have depleted by $5 billion in less than 4 months, bringing the CBN's reserve to a 21-month low. Nigerian banks have denied asking MTN Nigeria to impose a new charge on customers for using the telecoms firm's access codes to conduct financial transactions. MTN Nigeria had earlier announced a 4 naira charge for every 20 seconds of using USSD bank codes, claiming it took the decision as requested by the banks. Reacting to this, bank CEO in a joint statement debunked MTN's claim, saying the banks never gave such directives. The charges were, however, not implemented following a directive from the federal government that it should be suspended. Now, the decision to charge a customer for accessing USSD is entirely up to telecommunication organizations. Oil prices edged lower on Tuesday as lingering worries over a global economic slowdown that could hurt demand offset some signs of progress in the U.S.-China trade talks. Brent crude oil futures were down to 10 cents at $58.86 a barrel, while U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude futures were down 12 cents, that's at $53.19 a barrel. U.S. President Donald Trump on Monday said efforts to end a U.S. trade war with China were going on well as negotiators from the two nations worked to nail down a Phase 1 trade deal text for their leaders to sign next month. Brent has fallen 22% from its April peak, while WTI is down 20%. Up next is a review of trading activities on the stock market today. After this. Trading activity on the NSE today is what analysts might describe as disappointing. Take a look at this. The all-share index closed with a loss of minus 0.09%, wrapping up at 26,365.83 basis points. And we can see here that the figures downed hopes of a positive trading session, and that's after yesterday's loss on the NSE. Now, to get a very close look at the trading activities today, we see that the volume of shares traded today is almost 700 million, values over 7 billion naira, and deals comes in at 2,780 shares. And now to our top losers here, MTN Nigeria. Now, investors did buy a lot of stock of MTN Nigeria. How many? 1,308,737 shares. But the issue here was that bargain hunters were also buying at lower prices. It's a minus 0.77% or a 1 naira depreciation from its last close on Monday. As we can see here, it sold yesterday at 130 naira, but closed today at 129. Etana PLC, we see also the Cadbury and May & Baker recorded losses on the Nigerian stock market. On the other hand, our top gainers today is Stanbic IBTC Bank, which was the toast of investors, as well as Cement Company of Northern Nigeria, which obviously is selling higher than it did yesterday, Cotix and UACN. And now to the foreign scene. You can see here all good news for all the stock markets. FTSE closed higher, up at 0.68%, and that's consolidating its gains of yesterday as traders await the next vote on Brexit in Parliament. And in America, the Dow Jones holds a near record high of 0.37%. And in Japan, obviously, it's a bull's market here as well. The Nikkei is up to 0.25%. That's it from here, Fidelia.
Well, thank you, Annetta, for that update. 5 leaders of a Guinean opposition alliance have been sentenced to prison for their roles in a series of protests which rocked the West African country last week. They were accused of inciting civil disobedience. Abdurrahmani Sano, leader of the National Front of the Defense of the Constitution, FNDC, was sentenced to a year in prison, while 4 other leaders were given 6-month sentences and 2 were acquitted. The defense lawyers of those sentenced have said they will appeal against the judgment. The protests were organized to kick against a possible change of the constitution that could let Alpha Condé seek a 3rd term in office as president. But the authorities did not approve the protest, and at least 10 people died in violence as police clashed with demonstrators. Juventus star Cristiano Ronaldo's DNA-matched evidence collected in the rape case against him in America. The 5-time Ballon d'Or winner was accused of raping one Catherine Mayorga last year in a hotel room in Las Vegas. The crime reportedly took place in 2009. Police and criminal prosecutors in America confirmed the DNA match after a series of tests. The criminal case, which has since been dropped, was widely publicized, with a 34-year-old Portuguese forward protesting his innocence on social media following the accusation. Serie A strugglers Genoa have announced the sacking of their head coach Aurelio Andreozzoli. The 65-year-old was laid off just after 8 games in charge. Andreozzoli, who had kept Empoli in Serie A in the 2017-2018 campaign, took over from Prandelli in June. Genoa escaped relegation from Serie A last season on the final day under Cesar Prandelli at the expense of Andreozzoli's Empoli. Meanwhile, Brazilian-born former Italian footballer Thiago Motta has been announced as Andreozzoli's replacement. Well, that is our news now. Many thanks for watching. I am Fidelia Aguncha. Bye for now.